Hello and welcome to Stitched from my stash. My name is Julie and I'm coming to you from just north of Glasgow in the UK. And do excuse my voice, I obviously have a cold, which is getting better, but it's still, I'm sounding a bit deep in my voice. Okay, thanks for your company and for subscribing and following along with my sewing and making escapades. And just to confirm, the idea behind my vlog is that I'm trying to use as much of my stash as possible. Having said that, I have made a few little, albeit charity shop purchases over the past week, so that's scratched a little itch for me wanting to buy something. So I'm going to give a little brief overview of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing and one finished item, which is a hat. I'll add some photos. Work in progress, which is a quilt. And we've been away for just over a week, hence my tardiness in posting last week and this week. I did mean to get it done when we were away, but I'll say a bit more about that as the vlog progresses. The bags I took with me, so I'm going to post a photo of that, and I'm going to add a little bit about our holiday in Edinburgh and then up in Sutherland, the far north of Scotland. So if that's for you, great. If not, that's fine. Having said that, my voice, I can feel it going already and I've not got a drink, so I'd better crack on. So what I'm wearing is a Whittaker pinafore, and I've dug some patterns out here, and I will put the patterns in the description. I think I've made 3 of these, and the weather has turned, so this is a corduroy one, getting a bit cozier autumn winter wear. I think I dyed this fabric. It'll be on one of my vlogs, not sure which one, and I really like it. It's a comfy wear. I'll add a photograph, and I have some thickish knitted tights on because I feel like cozying up a bit today. I would recommend this pattern. It does say experienced. It's a Merchant and Mills, but I think take your time, and it's a really nice make. Lots of interesting features, buttons down the side, pockets. So there's an interfacing here. Can't remember what I used on this. Perhaps a bit of linen. So I would recommend this pattern, and as I said, the weather's turned, so I'm going to be digging this out a bit more. So that's the outer. The inner is, just put that there, a t-shirt that I made, can't remember, last year, year before. Anyway, it's a stretch, I think it's a cotton, and made generally on my overlocker serger with some finishing round the neck on the machine with a double pointed needle. Again, I've made a lot of these, and wash and wear. They're a really comfy t-shirt. I may consider making some of the other versions. We'll see how my sorting through my winter autumn wear goes, because it's that time of year now, isn't it? End of September. So that's what I'm wearing. I have made some notes, but they are a bit higgledy-piggledy. So I'm going to tick off that and talk about my one finished item over the past fortnight, I should say, because I did aim to post last week, but it didn't work out when we were away. So my one finished item, I'm going to have to lean over, so excuse me, is, come on, is this hat. Now this is on, I bought these years ago. I've got a traditional male and a female. And this hat size is a child, but it just about fits on this adult. Mannequin head, best. Anyway, it's a snowflake pattern, which is here. Can't remember if it's a free download or a paid download of Ravelry, but it was good fun. I enjoyed making this. Again, it's acrylic yarn from my stash, and it's intended for our granddaughter, who is 3. And again, with the weather turning, and she does like purple. I would say this is like a mauve, but it's a nice soft, I don't know if you can see, there's a bit of a like a halo of the fabric. It is a nice yarn. Where the yarn came from, I think I remember now, a friend of mine, perhaps 4 years ago. She's a knitter, but somebody had given her a stack of yarn that she wasn't going to use, so I had a really nice bag full, and I've used a lot of it. So this is the remnants now. You can see the snowflakes, but I think if the yarn wasn't fluffy, perhaps the definition would be better. But I've never made one of these hats before, this style, so I'm pleased with it. It's knit in the round, and I did look up a video, and I think I might have talked about this hat last time, can't remember. I did look up a video that explained how to weave in the ends as you went along, which was really helpful. So you haven't got lots of loose floats that you can catch your hands in, and it does make for a really nice thick fabric for keeping you warm on a cold day. So I was pleased with learning how to weave the ends in excuse me, and I'm pleased with the overall hat. Not shown our granddaughter yet or tried it on. Like I said, it's a child pattern, but just about fits an adult. So my one finished item that I'm pleased with, so I'm going to tick that off. My works in progress, I've got 2 works in progress, and one of which is a quilt, and I think I have shown this before, but I'm aiming to create this quilt as I think it's a throw. It's not a bed size quilt, but that's what I'm aiming to work on as a gift for one of my son's friends who are getting married next year. So it's not a rush. Don't have to rush over this. It's for next year. So I have made a start on sewing some blocks. Now I had these squares cut out. I mentioned before, I cut them out as I finish a project and then make a stack of them. So I did have the coloured squares cut out and some black, but I have cut out some more black. I can't remember the maths behind it. I'll go into a bit more detail another time. But there's 2 blocks. There's block A and block B, and I've done the block A's first with black here and black here, and again just using up these squares that I've had. So I made a good start on that before we went away, And I have got some more squares cut out, and at some point this week I will get back to joining up some squares to make some more blocks for this quilt. And I think I showed this. I have a big piece of black to use as the, I suppose, the colour that brings it all together. I don't know the word I'm looking for. Anyway, so that's one of my works in progress. I'm going to put that there. My other work in progress, excuse me, I'm going to have to lean over, is a piece of knitting that I wasn't sure of, but I've spoken to Andrew this morning, my partner. I was going to rip it back, but he says, no, stick with it. I'll explain why I was going to rip it back in a moment. So this is what I'm knitting. It's an entrelac baby blanket. And a few years ago now, I did do an entrelac little swatch, and never completed it. But I wanted to create an entrelac baby blanket, partly because I'm trying to use up my stash, and I don't think I have enough colours to do, say, a one colour blanket. So I thought entrelac would be a good way of using up different colours. So I did take this away, and I did do some whilst I was away. So this is what I've done so far. I started off with the green triangle, blue square, red square, and then I'm on a yellow row, and then I'm going to go back to the green. And I thought it would be really difficult. My eldest son is 32, 33 this year. And when he was a baby, one of my really precious aunts, who's no longer with us, made him an entrelac blanket. And it was beautiful, really lovely, with a nice crocheted edge. Now, I kept it for years and years, but then I handed it on to my cousin's daughter when she had a baby. So my aunt was her granny. So she's now got the entrelac blanket. Well, a couple of friends of mine are becoming grandparents, first time or second time. So I thought it may come in for that. We'll see how I like it when it's finished. Why I was going to rip it back. Oh, no, I was saying that this aunt of mine is really clever, was really clever. And I think, I don't know if she would have followed a pattern, but once you get into the rhythm, you know what to do on the next section. So I think you could, once you learn how to do it without a pattern, but I'm not quite there yet. I think one thing I would have done, I may have reduced the cast on to make it a bit smaller, because it is going to take a long time. So why was I going to rip it back? Because the back is a back. It's not that neat, really. So I thought, I'm not keen on the back that doesn't look that neat, because a lot of the pattern, you're picking up stitches, which I suppose makes this bit of a ridge. And of course, there's the colour change. But Andrew said, no, it's lovely. And babies like contrast of colours, isn't it? I'm not sure if they can see colour straight away, whatever, but they do like contrast. So I think I'm going to stick with it. It's not a quick knit. I was knitting in the car for when we were away. So it's not like a quick knit, but it is something that you can pick up, and you have to concentrate a bit, but not too much, which I think is a nice project. But whilst doing this, I was thinking, I'd like to do a nice lacy blanket, because I haven't done much lace knitting. But I'm going to finish this. As I said, I'm not sure if I've got enough to do one full colour. Anyway, so that's my other work in progress. Acrylic yarn from my stash, just trying to use up what I have. So I like that side. It's really effective. So I don't think I'm going to rip it back. So that can go back in there. They are my two works in progress. I'm now going to talk about the bags I took away with me. So you've probably seen some of these bags if you've been watching other of my vlogs. So I'm going to talk about one that I made a few years ago now that I haven't talked about on the vlog. And it's this. It's called, let's see the pattern. It's called the Desmond Roll Top Backpack. And when I made this, they were quite popular. I haven't looked in my sewing record book. I ain't feeling very well. So I don't know when. Let's say 4 years ago, I made this. And it's a paid download pattern. And it's quite detailed. And as I recall, it's a really fun make. I've only made one, but I remember at the time, I really enjoyed making it. So the fabric is, I'm not sure if this is showerproof. It wouldn't be a rucksack you take out on the hills. To me, I've used it for like an overnight bag, say when I'm going away with friends for a little while. And it is good because you just obviously wear it as a rucksack so your hands are free. So the fabric is I suppose it would repel a little shower, but the seams aren't showerproof or anything. But it is quite a robust fabric that I bought from Abercorn. I think they were pieces. It wasn't expensive, perhaps £5 for these. Like I said, it's quite a tough fabric. Not sure if they were for seat covers. Anyway, and the inside was something that came from my stash. It's a curtain weight fabric that I would have. Did I make curtains out of these? Can't remember. But it's a curtain weight fabric. And you have some pockets on the inside for bits and bobs. And then you have a zip pocket on the outer. And the zip probably came part of the bundle from somewhere. So it's a nice chunky plastic zip. The red contrast with the black. And these D-rings I probably had hanging around, and I remember these attachments I harvested, as they say, from a laptop bag of Andrew's that was on its last legs. So this type of hardware I would recommend saving. If a bag is in such a poor state, can't be mended, you throw it out, save the hardware. So I had the D-rings, the hardware, and I bought the strapping from Abercorn. And I'm really pleased with it. It's a really nice size for overnight stay, on the train, whatever, and easy enough to carry around with you. And it does take quite a bit of contents. So that's one that I took away. The Desmond backpack, and I will put all the pattern details at the bottom. A couple of other, well, I took quite a few other bags. So a little notions pouch that I had made years ago with a lining, and that lining came from my late mother's stash. The zip probably came from Abercorn. It's a really nice plastic chunky one with a metal zip. The fabric came from I've mentioned this before, a colleague when I was teaching gave a friend and I 3 or 4 big bags, blue IKEA bags of fabric. It came from in there, and I have made a toilet bag as well out of this funky fabric. So that's my little notions pouch I take away with measuring tape, pencil, needles, etc. So that bag came with me. The other thing that always comes with me is this little purse, which is, did I make it up? Can't remember. And it's got my cards. Oh, blimey. So, little purse, and that goes with this coat, which is I didn't get the coat pattern out. It's a Vogue pattern. I think I'll add a photograph of the coat. It's a Vogue pattern, and I made this at least 5 years ago because I have photographs of me wearing it to London on my 60th birthday. And I absolutely love this coat. Again, this fabric was gifted by the colleague, and it's wool, and it's such a lovely weight to it. The buttons would have come from, I think, my late mother's collection. Just undo the buttons here. I'm using my left hand, I'm right-handed. Just want to show you the lining. And I bought the lining from Textile Express in Oswestry because I didn't have lining that was suitable. But I really, really like this coat. And it's a good between the seasons coat. It's very simple to make. It's quite a fitted coat. I know it looks baggy, but the sleeves, I wouldn't say could get like a thick jumper underneath it, but it's a good between seasons coat, and I've worn this loads. I really like this coat. I think particularly the weight, because it feels so comfy, and because it's wool, it's not, you know, it's a nice wool, it's not heavy. So I do have some more of this fabric left. Not sure if I fancy making a short jacket, perhaps with a collar. This is collarless. I am going to keep a photograph there because you can't really see it. So that little purse goes with the coat. Another thing I've not shown that I took away was this little pouch with a drawstring top. And this holds my soap. It's lined with an old shower curtain fabric, and I think this might be Liberty, not sure. Again, it was gifted to me. And my soap goes in here, and then that goes in my toilet bag, and I put some little beads on the end just as a bit of fun. Again, I made this a long time ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And one of my South Wales friends says, it's only me and another friend that still use soap. Why? I'm sure loads of people still use soap. Otherwise you've got those plastic bottles and you end up with the plastic. Anyway, and I like soap. My skin is quite sensitive, so I know which soaps I can use. So I took that with me. And the other bags I've shown, which are my embroidered bag that I took my knitting in, my over-the-shoulder bag made out of a reclaimed tent, which I used loads. It was so useful. So that was a really good make. That pattern, I did get the pattern out. It's now in a mess on the table. Came from here. And I would really recommend that. It's such an easy make and really useful. Sling over your shoulder. And also from that pattern, I made this hold all, which I've shown, and I took that. And I think with that and the Desmond or the Desmond roll top, that was all my clothes. We were aiming to do a big hill walk, but I wasn't well enough. So I did have quite a few clothes in there. Oh, and the last bag I took, of course, was my rice bag with some other knitting paraphernalia in. So they are the bags I took away. I probably took some others, but they are the main ones. So the bags I took away. So I'm now going to talk a little bit. If you're interested, stay. If not, thanks for watching so far. Talk about our trip. Now, I'm not a big goer-awayer. I'm more of a home bird. But we did get away. So we went to Edinburgh and the weather was beautiful. And the things we did in Edinburgh, couple of things we went for. We stayed just outside Edinburgh, west of Leith. I'll put the name here because I can't remember the name of the place, in a hotel. And we walked into Edinburgh every day and it was like a 45-minute walk, which was lovely. Allotments, all the lovely, beautiful houses, and hardly any rubbish anywhere. So, one thing we wanted to see was Andy Goldsworthy at the Scottish, and I'm useless at remembering names, so I've written this down, the Royal Scottish Academy. So if you don't know Andy Goldsworthy, he's an artist that creates, I suppose, quite ephemeral work out in nature. And this is a 50-year celebration of his work. So he brought indoors and set up in the art gallery some of his, well, I suppose they were made for the exhibition. So I put some examples here. There was a channel of oak branches, so much wood. It was amazing. There, and at the end of that, there was a work made out of, I think they were reeds, and it was a real optical illusion. That, I really loved that, because I'm just thinking about embroidery and how you could work that into embroidery. I'm not particularly artistic, but I could see, that really gave you some ideas and some, I suppose, warmth as somebody who makes things. It was nice to see. So what else about Andy Goldsworthy? I'm just trying to think what photographs I've got. This doesn't translate so much onto the camera, but he made this massive wall out of mud and earth, and that was stunning. So we really wanted to go there. So as I said, I'll add some photographs of Andy Goldsworthy. And I wanted to go to the Dovecot, which is a weaving textile space in Edinburgh, which I have been to a few years ago, but we returned for an IKEA fabric exhibition. And again, I'll put up some examples of the IKEA fabric over the years, and that was really interesting. And there was only a few I recognised, but really joyful patterns. And it was interesting. I didn't realise IKEA had been going so long. I think it's like 60, 70 years it started. So that was interesting. Now, in the Dovecot, and I'll add some footage here, it's an old swimming baths, and you can stand on the balcony and watch the textile artists weaving and making tapestry, and the looms they use are huge. So there was a really lovely exhibition upstairs on Victoria Crowe, a living Scottish artist, and some of her paintings were absolutely beautiful. They haven't really translated well to photograph, but I will add some. So that was the Dovecot and day one. Andrew had the cold previous to me. I didn't have the cold on these days. And the weather was stunning. So we had lovely walks, coffees outside, beautiful. And then on the next day, we went to, and I'm going to check, we went to the Museum of Scotland. And again, I'll add some photographs. And you can only do so much. This museum is wonderful. The building is wonderful. There's a rooftop terrace that you can climb up and look out over Edinburgh, the castle. Beautiful. So such a gorgeous building and the views. But I wanted to look at the textile-based exhibitions. We could have spent all day there, but I chose the textile. And I think there was 3 floors of textiles. And I'll add a few things that drew my eye. And one in particular was a piece of embroidery added here on the Festival of Britain, which was in Britain in 1951, as a boost after the war, I think, to get people motivated, positive, etc. after the Second World War. Now, this particularly drew me because I've got photographs of my mother and my uncle at the Festival of Britain. And my uncle, so I'm from South Wales Valleys, and my uncle tells the story of my mother, who was 20 and he was perhaps 16, organising this trip from the South Wales Valleys, getting a bus all the way from, I don't know where, because you can get the train so far, and then they got the bus across, wouldn't have had the M4 obviously then, and they stayed with relatives. There was always relatives they could stay with up in London, and I found that quite poignant. So there was this embroidery, and there was also a little display, which I'll put up, not sure how well it'll come out, of some little artifacts from the Festival of Britain. So I found that really poignant. And there was some fashion that I loved, some fabric, Lucian Day fabric, which was beautiful. So I'll try and put some of these images up. And there was also, we just came across it, a vessel, silver vessel created by a friend of mine she's Australian, and she's very, very clever. And we just said, oh, I looked at that and I thought, that's a Julie Blyfield. And this beautiful silver vessel, which I'll put up. And there was also just below it in the same case, a slab vessel created by someone else we know called Ken Eastman. So that was really interesting to come across these exhibits, and I would really recommend that in that museum. In fact, talking about it now, I'd like to go back, and it's not far from us, a couple of hours from where we live. But that was beautiful in the, am I going to say it again, National Museum of Scotland. And we then went to somewhere called the Museum of Scotland. There were so many museums. And I wanted to go there specifically to look at an exhibition on craftivism. It was only a small exhibition, but it was quite interesting, and we were flagging it by then. But it was on craftivism. I was a bit surprised that they didn't have... I know in Edinburgh there's quite a strong street stitchers group. I'm surprised they didn't have that, any info on the street stitchers of Edinburgh. But anyway, and somebody I know on Instagram I've met a couple of times, she's one of the street stitchers, but they didn't have that there. But it was worth walking down there. So we did some other things in Edinburgh, which I could be here all day. We then went on to Dundee, and I had the cold by now. So it did slow me down a bit because I'm not a very good patient. So in Dundee, we went to the V&A, Dundee V&A, which our eldest son was posted in Dundee for a while, but the V&A wasn't quite built then. So we hadn't been to the V&A. And the exhibition that we wanted to see was on Palestinian embroidery. And it was so poignant. It was wonderful, really beautiful works. And it so happened, I'm not sure who these young people were, but they had a guide from the museum explaining to them all about the embroideries, and I'll put some up here. So I tagged along and I was listening into the talk. And one of the things she was talking about was somebody called Nadia El Nakla, who is the wife of Hamza Yousaf, who was the first Minister of Scotland for a while. And Nadia wore this beautiful red Palestinian style dress when Hamza Yousaf was being sworn in as the first Minister of Scotland. So that was really interesting to see. And the other dress I picked out, again, I'll put a photograph here. It's distressing, really, isn't it, with all the terrible things that's happening in Palestine, Israel. And this dress was from the museum in Nablus, which was blown up. And the dress, the story was, the dress was what's the word, I don't know, went up to the top of the ruins, and it was there for perhaps 8 months, and hence it was bleached by the sun, but they managed to reclaim the dress, and the dress is now in this exhibition. So that was a really emotive piece. So I'll add that here. And the bags. This was really thought-provoking. There was an exhibition of plastic carrier bags, which the artist, and I do apologise because I have noted the artists. The artist used these just ordinary plastic bags, and she embroidered on the outside what the people who were fleeing, wherever they were fleeing from, some of the possessions they'd put in there. So toothbrush or children's toys, books, and she'd embroidered on the outside of these bags some of these items. So really thought-provoking. If you're in that situation, what do you take? So that was well worth visiting, and stunning building. And we then went on to Sutherland, which is the very far northwest of Scotland, to a lovely little Airbnb. And we had 4 nights, I think, up there. So we did a beautiful walk to a beach. I think that was 4 miles there and back. And you can only get to this beach by walking, Sandwood Bay. So I put some photos of that. Hunkered down in the Airbnb for a while. Beautiful views. And we did some other beach walks. And Andrew swam. I didn't. I thought, I don't want to be any iller. You know, people say, oh, that doesn't cause a cold. but I thought I can't face being any iller. We went to Durness, and in Durness there's a really interesting makers village. And I did buy a few things, but Andrew's gone out in the car and they were in his car. So I'll perhaps put those up next week. So that's our little trip away. And despite my cold, we did crack on and get things done, and it was good to get away. We came back yesterday. We took all day to drive down from Kinloch Buoy. Kinloch Burvey is where we were staying. And on the way down, we stopped at Shin Falls. And I was chatting there to a woman. There was a salmon leap. So we were watching the salmon leap up, and we did see some salmon. And we had such an interesting conversation. This woman, she lives on Lewis. And talking about something I'd been mulling over. What is a simple life? I think often a simple life is one of privilege, isn't it? Those people in Gaza certainly aren't having a simple life, are they? But simple life, appreciating what you have and finding joy in small things, which I'm really trying to do. And we certainly were privileged last week to have this holiday and really enjoyed it. So that was interesting to talk to Jill that we met by Shin Falls about her life on Lewis, and she raised her own sheep. I said she'd be a real good presenter on a YouTube channel because people love that. So nice conversations with the woman who we rented the accommodation from. She's a maker. She'd made some beautiful crochet items. So it really got me thinking, I'm ready to come back now. I've missed my YouTube friends and my YouTube channel, and I've missed my sewing room and my hunkering down at home. Luckily, I tidied my sewing room before I went away, so it's nice to come back to a tidy sewing room. Excuse me. So I think I'm going to sign off now. And sorry for being a bit tardy with my postings last week. I'm going to have a cup of tea and decide what crafts I'm going to do next. Thank you for watching. Take care. Try and find the joy, and hopefully see you next Monday, more back to normal. Bye for now.